right, stepping into the Aria 2-5 game, hoping to play another monster session. This will be the largest game I will have ever played with the biggest buy-in, and I'll see you guys in there.
Okay folks, before we get started, I want to let you guys know I played for a little more than 13 hours in this session and recorded 64 hands in total. No, I'm not going to discuss all 64, but more of the interesting hands of the session. There's a lot to get to, so let's get started. Okay, prior to this hand, I had 3-bet a couple of times pre-flop and completely whiffed everything in both hands. Nothing overly interesting, but that's why my stack is a little bit below the $1,500 buy-in amount. In this first interesting hand, I'm in the under the gun position and look down at King-Queen offsuit. Yes, this is definitely a bit loose to open from this position, but what I had seen so far in this session was that everyone was playing a lot tighter than what I normally see. We're pretty early in the morning for poker, and most of the folks at the table are either local regs or OMC types, so I opened up my range a tad bit more. Regardless, here I opened the action for $15. The hijack makes the call, the cutoff calls, and the small blind calls. Well, so much for a tight table. I guess they decided to loosen their range the same time I did. So we're 4 ways to a flop, which is 8 king deuce with 2 clubs. All right, top pair, pretty darn good kicker. Small blind checks, and with my top pair, I put out a c-bet of $35. The hijack folds, and the cutoff now raises to $85. Small blind gets out of the way, and what could the cutoff have here? Is he on a club draw? Unlikely he has a better king than myself, or we would have seen a 3-bet pre-flop. Maybe pocket eights? I make the call and plan to proceed a bit cautiously here. The turn is the 6 of spades. Shouldn't really change anything. I checked to Mr. Aggressor Man, and now he throws out a bet of $150, which is about 60% of the pot. Okay, so his likely holdings are what? Maybe king queen, king jack, or king 10. He could have pocket eights, or he could have something like ace x of clubs, or maybe queen x of clubs. But I think if he was on a club draw, he'd likely want to check here and see a river for free. I make the call and pretty much plan to play 5th Street chicken. If he bets on the river, I'll probably lay this one down. Even at these stakes, when folks bet on the river, they more often than not are betting for value. The river is the 8 of diamonds. Okay, so unlikely he's got pocket eights now. Do we have the same hand? I check and he checks back and shows ace-king offsuit. What the heck? Did not see that one coming. Man, he was in a prime position pre-flop to make a squeeze too, but didn't. It snuck one by me. Good hand, good sir. Okay, prior to this hand, my stack had gone down again, this time to about $1,000 after 3-betting again in a couple of hands pre-flop that didn't really amount to anything. I had pocket kings on an ace-high flop and ace-queen on a middling board where someone jammed for 3 times the pot post-flop. So I added on for an additional $500, and now I'm in the game for a total of $2,000. In this hand, I'm on the button and look down at 9-10 of diamonds. The middle position player limps, the low jack raises to $25, and I make the call. So far, when I've entered pots this session, I've either opened the action or 3-bet, so changing things up a bit with a call here. Both the big blind and middle position players call as well. Definitely more action-y, that's for sure. So we're 4 ways to a flop, again, which is jack, 8, queen, rainbow. Heck yeah, the nuts. The big blind checks, the middle position player checks, and the low jack, who opened the action pre-flop, bets $75. Do you call here or raise? I definitely want more folks to enter this pot to build it up a bit, so I think a call is the best play with the nuts, so that's what I do. I call the 75, but the big blind then jams for $275. What on earth? Thank you, sir. Middle position player folds, and the low jack makes the call. I call and am only thinking at this point how to get all the low jack's chips into the pot. The turn is the 7 of hearts, so we've got a full rainbow board here, no flush potential. I'm thinking one of these guys has a set and the other maybe 2 pair. The low jack now bets $325. Yeah, I think a jam is in order now, so I jam for $1,040 effective, and he snap calls, and I instantly think we now have the same hand. The river's the 4 of spades. The low jack does in fact show 9-10 of hearts. Oh man, I show and the big blind shows queen jack of hearts, and the low jack and I split the pot. Really big pot here of just over $3,000. Crazy, largest pot I've ever played in. In this hand, I'm in the small blind position and look down at 8-9 of hearts. The low jack opens the action for $15. Now, I think all options are on the table here, but I'm not a fan of folding this suited connector, and I'm actually leaning towards a raise. I think both the call or a raise are acceptable, with the raise being the slightly better option as I am out of position. 8-9 does play a bit better multi-way though, but I think I prefer to take a more aggressive strategy this hand, so I 3-bet pretty darn light to $45. Big blind folds, and the low jack takes a look at his cards and makes the call. So we're heads up to a flop. which is 764 rainbow. Okay, I've got an open ender and a backdoor heart draw. Given that, I think a C-bet is in order, so I put out a bet of $40. LoJack doesn't take long and puts in the call. I'm thinking he could have a couple of overs here with like ace-queen or ace-jack. Also could have a smaller overpair maybe with like tens or jacks. The turn is the deuce of hearts, so I pick up some more equity here. I think I'm going to continue with this aggression though, and a $100 bet might actually do the trick. So I put out a black chip into the center and he immediately checks his cards and throws them into the muck. So I guess he may have been on a draw. Regardless, I take this one down and glad to have it. Okay, in this hand, I'm in the hijack position and look down at the second best pre-flop hand in poker, pocket kings. Middle position player limps, the LoJack limps. Yep, you guessed it, a raise is in order, so I bumped this one up to $30. Big blind makes the call, the middle position player lets it go, and the LoJack calls. So we're three ways to a flop, which is ace 4-6 with two spades. Gosh dang it, darn ace. Big blind checks, the LoJack checks, and I check as well with that ace on the board. I think of the other two villains in this hand, the big blind is most likely the one to have an ace given the LoJack limped pre-flop. Yes, it's possible the LoJack has an ace with a middling to low kicker, but a little less likely. The turn is the 10 of spades. Now the front door spades get there, but I do have a backdoor nut flush draw. The big blind now bets $60, and you know he's betting into two players with the flush potential out there and the ace on the board, so he's representing some significant strength. LoJack gets out of the way, and I think a call is in order with my draw, so I make the call. I've got the equity. And the river's the 10 of hearts. Well, I think I'm pretty much done with this hand. The big blind bets $60 again, and I let this one go. Just too much that can beat me here. In this hand, I'm in the cutoff position and look down at King 10 of hearts. The LoJack opens the action for $15, and I think both a call and a raise are okay options here. Again, leaning towards a raise to single this guy out, so that's what I do. I put in the 3-bet, $45. Folds back around to the LoJack who makes the call. Now, he could have any number of holdings here, pretty much discounting aces, kings, and ace-king. So we're heads up to a flop, which is 4 ace 10, all diamonds. Well, I do have a piece of this monotone board, but odds are he didn't flop a flush either. LoJack checks, and I think I want to put out a range bet here in this time around, so I c-bet for $40, and the LoJack makes the call. A little worried he's connected with that ace. The turn is the 4 of hearts. Don't really think that changes anything. LoJack checks, and I check as well for a bit of pot control, and in the event he does have a weak ace. The river's the 9 of clubs, pretty much a brick. The LoJack checks again, so this pretty much guarantees he doesn't have an ace or diamonds here, but I check as well in the event he's trying to pull a fast one. I show my pair of 10s and the LoJack mucks, so I take this one down. In hindsight, I guess a river bet was probably the right move here, but would he have called? Maybe. Okay, in this hand, I'm on the button and look down at Jack 10 of spades. The middle position player opens the action for $15 and the cutoff calls. Now, interesting spot here. Again, I think a call or a squeeze are both viable options. This time around, I go with the call route, change things up a bit, and the big blind calls as well. Need to be mindful of the middle position players. He could have the premiums. Cutoff in big blind, not so much. So we have multi-way action to a flop, which is Jack, Jack 4 rainbow. Alrighty. Not the nuts, but pretty darn close to it. It checks to me, and boy howdy, I think I want to check here. Maybe trap a bit. Very unlikely I'm going to lose this thing. I think if I bet even like $10, I risk everyone else folding, so I make the check. The turn is the 5 of hearts. The big blind now open jams for $86. Both the middle position and cutoff players fold, an easy snap call here. The river's the 5 of clubs, so unless he has pocket fives, I'm not losing this thing. He shows King 3 of hearts, and I guess missed a backdoor flush draw here. I show and take this one down. Trap worked? Okay, here we're five-handed. I guess a few folks are on their lunch break. In this hand, I'm in the under the gun position and look down at Queen 10 of hearts. I open the action for $20, and the button is the only caller. Now, he could have any number of hands with the exception of the premiums, of course. So we're heads up to a flop, which is 8-9-4 rainbow. We've got a couple of overs, a gutter to a straight, and a backdoor flush draw, so a c-bet is certainly in order, so I put out a bet of $20. The button thinks about this for a bit and then puts out 3 green chips. Okay, kind of odd for a raise here. He knows I should be pretty strong raising pre-flop from under the gun, and he's raising into me, so he basically is saying he's got a set, right? Could he have something like 6-7 or maybe jacks? I think it's possible. I make the call and plan to proceed cautiously. The turn is the deuce of hearts, so my back door is still alive. I checked to Mr. Aggressor Man, and now he puts out a bet of $150. Okay, let's do the math here. If I call, the pot will be nearly $500. 150 into 500 is what, like 30%? I've got 12 outs here with what, 9 hearts and 3 jacks, so that's about 24% equity. The math doesn't really add up, but it's close. I make a crying call here, plan to snap fold any non-heart or jack. The river's the ace of clubs. Well, Easy decision here. I check, and the button takes about a minute before he puts out a bet of $320, and I couldn't fold fast enough. A bit of a mistake here, though, and one that I hope not to repeat this session. Okay, in this hand, I'm on the button and look down at King 5 of Hearts. The hijack opens the action for $15, and I think this hand should normally be a fold, but I'm trying to mix things up this session. Want to throw in some unpredictable hands from time to time, so I make the call and the blinds fold. So we're heads up to a flop, which is King 8 Deuce Rainbow. Okay, this is about as dry of a board as it gets. Hijack puts out a C bet of $20, clearly not going anywhere with my top pair and backdoor heart draw, so I make the call. His C bet doesn't really tell me much at this point. Right now, just thinking he could have something like ace jack or a suited connector of some sort. The turn is the queen of clubs. Now the hijack checks. Okay, so now very unlikely he has a king or queen. Think any bet could take the pot down right now, so I put out a bet of $35. He thinks about this for a brief second or two and lays it down. Pretty straightforward hand with not so much straightforward holding, but I'll take it. Okay, for this hand, I started the video a bit late. Here I'm in the hijack position and look down at ace queen offsuit and open the action for $15. The button, small blind, and big blind all make the call. So we're 4 ways to a flop, which is deuce ace 10 with 2 spades. Okay, I'll take that. Both the blinds check, and yes, betting into multiple players on this board will pretty much highlight that I've got an ace in my hand, but gotta build the pot somehow, so I put out a bet of $25. The button makes the call, the small blind folds, and the big blind makes the call. Okay, so I'm thinking one is likely on a flush draw, and maybe one's got a 10 in their hands with something like king jack or 9-10. The turn is the 6 of hearts, pretty much blank. The big blind checks and still don't see a reason to slow down at this point, so I'll put out 3 green chips for a total of $75. The button pretty much snap folds, and the small blind takes his time and lines up his chips like he's gonna call. Maybe he's got a couple of spades in his hand, but he folds and I take down another one. That'll work. I'm in the big blind and look down at pocket kings. Heck yeah. The hijack opens the action for $15. The small blind calls the 15 and a squeeze is 100% probability, so I raise this one up to $65. Want to go a bit higher than normal given my position. The hijack makes the call and the small blind calls as well. What the heck? Okie dokie. The squeeze was not successful, but that's okay. More money in the pot with my kings. So we're 3 ways to a flop, which is 6-3-3 rainbow. Now, unless someone's got pocket sixes or like ace 3, I've got a pretty commanding lead here. Small blind checks and I throw out a C bet of $75, about 40% of the pot. The hijack folds and the small blind makes the call. What could he have here? Maybe something like pocket 10s or 9s? The turn is the deuce of hearts. Shouldn't really change anything, but it does bring in a backdoor heart draw and I guess 4-5, which would have been an extremely unlikely and loose 3-bet call pre-flop. Small blind checks and I don't see a reason to slow down at this point. If he does have 10s or 9s or a couple of hearts, want to charge him to see a river, so I put out a bet of $210. He checks his cards, thinks for a moment, and lets it go. Decent sized pot here. I'll take it. Okay, in this hand, I'm in the small blind and look down at king jack of clubs. The under the gun limps, the cutoff limps, and yep, I'm 40% of the way to a royal, and a raise is on the horizon, so I bump this one up to $30. Big blind calls the 30, the under the gun player folds, and the cutoff calls. Okay, the big blind has got to be relatively strong here, knowing a couple of other folks were still left to act behind, so got to worry about him a bit. We're 3 ways to a flop, which is 4 jack 10 rainbow. All right, top pair, pretty darn good kicker. I'm first to act, and yes, betting into multiple other opponents does indicate some strength here, but got to do it, and I put out a bet of $50. Big blind makes the call, and the cutoff folds. So what could he have here? Did he connect with the 10 with like 9-10 or queen 10? Is he on a draw maybe with like 8-9? The turn is the king of diamonds. All right, upgraded to top 2, but that does bring in ace queen, which he may not have 4-bet with pre-flop. Also brings in queen 9. Both I think are possibilities. I think I'll know a lot more with the bet here, so I put out $125, a little more than 60% of the pot, and he quickly folds this one. So not quite sure what he held here. Unlikely a queen, so maybe like 9-10. Regardless, I take it down. Here I'm in the under the gun position and look down at, pocket kings, 3rd time this session. Still haven't seen aces today, but I'll definitely take kings 3 times, not complaining one bit. I of course open the action for $15. It folds to the hijack who makes the call, and the cutoff then nonchalantly squeezes for $70. Okay, to 4-bet or not to 4-bet, I think a 4-bet is called for in this spot, so I raise this one up to $250. The hijack quickly gets out of the way, and the cutoff takes his time here. Thanks for a solid minute, and lets it go. So he could have had maybe ace, queen, or jacks here maybe. Doesn't matter now. Nice little profit here of about $85. Okay, in this hand, I'm in the cutoff position and look down at Queen 10 offsuit. This is not really a good hand to play in any position earlier than this, but is openable from this position. So it folds to me and I open the action for $15 and the big blind is the only color. We're heads up to a flop, which is ace, deuce, king with 2 clubs. Big blind checks and all I have is really a gutter here and I guess a backdoor club draw. But given this flop connects with my range a bit more than his, I put out a continuation bet of $15 and he makes the call. The turn is the jack of hearts. Yes, sir, the nuts. Big blind checks again. I think I want to slow play this one a bit, thinking he's likely going to fold to any bet. So I check here. The river's the queen of diamonds. Still have the nuts. The big blind checks, and what bet sizing would he call here? I like to go super small with a bet of $15. He checks his cards, thinks a moment, and lets it go. Man, would $5 have worked here? Would have been a bit funny. Okay, in this hand, I'm in the big blind position and look down at ace 3 of spades. The middle position player limps, the low jack limps, and the hijack raises to $25. It folds to me and I make the call. Think it's 50-50 split between a 3-bet or a flat here from this position with ace 3 suited. So I make the call. The MP calls and the low jack calls as well. So we've got 4-way action to the flop, which is 3-5 jack rainbow with 1 spade. We all check to the pre-flop aggressor and he throws out a continuation bet of $30. I make the call with my bottom pair and backdoor flush draw. The MP folds and the low jack makes the call. So the hijack could have anything here from pocket aces down to suited connectors. The low jack's not going to be as strong given the limp pre-flop, but he could have connected with that jack. The turn is the 8 of hearts. Okay, so my flush draw is dead. I check, the low jack checks, and the hijack checks. So now it's unlikely he's got an overpair here. Maybe he's got like ace king. The river's the deuce of hearts. Well, at least I no longer have bottom pair here. I check and the low jack now bets $60. Yeah, likely he's got something like queen or king jack suited here. The hijack folds and I'll let this one go. Easy fold. Okay, we're 1 full rotation later. I'm in the big blind and look down at king jack offsuit. The middle position player limps, the button limps, and I make the check here. No reason to raise this kind of weakish Broadway hand up. So we're 3 ways to a flop, which is ace, king, 9 rainbow. All right. As the other 2 folks limp, if they do have an ace, it'd likely be a pretty weak one. I check, the MP checks, and the button checks as well. So it's looking like none of them have an ace here. The turn is the queen of hearts. I throw out a $15 pro bet. The MP calls and the button folds. Could he have 2 pair here or maybe just hit the queen with like queen 10? The river's the 10 of hearts. Heck yeah, the nuts again. Okay, what are the chances he's got a jack? I mean, he could have queen jack, maybe jack 10, and he hit the nuts on the turn. I bet $25 here and he thinks for a bit and tosses out a raise to $120. Yeah, most definitely he has a jack here, but just in case I put my stack of black chips in the middle to put them all in. He checks his cards, I guess just to make sure, and he calls. He shows ace jack of diamonds. I show and we split the pot. Man, he limped pre-flop with ace jack of diamonds? Well, I definitely wouldn't have done that, and that's not the first time someone has just called an open raise or limped this session with a pretty darn strong hand. Is that starting to become a thing? Alright, this is now just over rotation later. I'm in the under the gun position and look down at ace 10 of diamonds. I open the action for $15 and the middle position player is the only color. Now he's got to be pretty strong here knowing my range from under the gun. Could have a pocket pair, some suited broadways, and we're heads up to a flop, which is ace 10 king with 2 clubs. Yes sir, top and bottom, I'll take that. The C-bet is mandatory here, so I put out a bet of $20 and he makes a pretty quick call, which usually means he's on a draw. The turn is the 6 of clubs. Gosh dang it. Well, he doesn't have much behind, like $75 or so, and if he's got 1 club, I think I want to put some pressure on him now, so I throw out a black chip and he instantly calls. Well, a little bit worried about this one. The river's the 5 of hearts. I show and the MP shows ace 9 of spades, and I take this one down. Wow, definitely thought he had something a little bit better than that, but that works for me. Okay, at this point I've been playing for about 6.5 hours. Here I'm in the under the gun position and look down at a premium ace-king offsuit. I of course open the action for $15. The MP player makes the quick call and the big blind makes the call as well. So we're 3 ways to a flop, which is 8 deuce king rainbow. Alright, top. Doesn't get much more straightforward than this, so I put out a bet of $20. And the MP player, who I didn't see his stack size, jams for his remaining $15. Big blind gets out of the way and I'll pull 5 of my dollars back from the middle. He asks to run it twice and I'm generally good with that, so I oblige. First turn in river is the king of clubs and the 3 of spades, and the second turn in river is the 7 of clubs and 6 of spades. I show and the MP shows king jack offsuit and I scoop. Not a very large pot, but fun to watch this thing play out. Okay, in this hand I'm on the button and look down at king jack of diamonds. The action folds all the way to the cutoff, who raises to $15. Now, given his range is going to be pretty wide here, I think a 3-bet is in order, so I raise this one up to $45. Blinds get out of the way, and the cutoff makes the call. So our heads up to a flop, which is Jack 9 Deuce Rainbow. Okay, top pair, pretty darn good kicker, and I've got some backdoor possibilities too. The cutoff checks, and I put out a C-bet of $50 with all my equity, and the cutoff makes the call. So he could have any number of holdings here, could have a weaker jack or maybe queen 10 or even pocket nines or possibly even ace jack or ace 9 maybe. The turn is the 4 of clubs, shouldn't really change much unless he's got a couple of clubs in his hand. Cutoff checks and really don't see a reason to slow down now, but what is the best sizing here? Don't want to go too large in case if I'm outkicked or I'm running into a set, but if he does have a set, I think he'd likely raise any smallish bet. So I put out a bet of $85, about 40% of the pot, and he doesn't take too long and makes the call. So a set is unlikely here now, but not impossible. The river is the 5 of spades. He checks again, and I'm just not seeing that he has a set now, but I check and show in case I'm outkicked, or he possibly has something like ace 3 of clubs and was on a club draw, but hit the wheel on the river. But he mucks, and I take this one down. May have missed out on a bit of value here on the river, but glad to take this one down. Okay, this is now a couple of hours later. Got up to grab a bite to eat and walk around for a bit and didn't record much action when back at the table, but we're back now, and in this hand I'm in the under the gun position and look down at ace jack of diamonds. I open the action for $15. The MP instantly calls, the cutoff makes the call, and the big blind then raises this one up to $85. Pretty interesting. Does he have like kings or a queen here? I make the call with my row of flush draw, and both the MP and cutoff get out of the way, so we're heads up to a flop, which is 7-10 ace rainbow. I'll take that. Cutoff thinks for a bit and puts out a $65 C-bet, which is about a third of the pot. Definitely not going anywhere with my top pair, so I make the call. So he still could have kings, queens, or maybe ace king or ace queen. The turn is the 6 of hearts. Shouldn't really change anything. Looks like he wants to slow down a bit though as he makes the check. Interesting spot here. I'm fairly certain he's got kings or queens, and I think I want to put him in a difficult spot now. Maybe in case he does have ace queen, so I decide to size up a bit here for $225. If he does call, I could be in a world of hurt though, but he folds and a bit frustratingly as well too, so that's telling me he likely did have a pretty high pocket pair. I'll take it. Okay, this is now a rotation and a half later. I'm on the button and look down at queen 9 of clubs. The cutoff opens the action for $15, and this would be a very light for a 3-bet here, so I decide to make the call instead. I'm in the best position at the table, hoping not to get squeezed though by one of the blinds, but the small blind folds and the big blind makes the call. Okay, we're 3 ways to a flop, which is 6-9-5 rainbow. Okay, top pair, pretty good kicker. Big blind checks and the cutoff checks, so does he have some overcards here maybe? I think I want to build up the pot a bit in the event my top pair holds on, so I put out a bet of $20. Big blind makes the call, which I guess is expected given this flop is in his range, and the cutoff makes the fold. The turn is the ace of diamonds. The big blind checks and I check as well, but that card really shouldn't be in his range. The river is the 5 of spades. The big blind bets $35 now. Just not seeing that he's got an ace here, and unless I'm running into something like 5-6, I might be good. Plus this bet is really low in comparison to the pot, and bet sizing is a bit of a tell, so I throw in the call. The big blind shows Jack 7 of hearts for the missed gut shot. I show and I'm good. Interesting here. Glad I recognized that sizing tell there at the end. Of course, he could have been betting for value too, but in all likelihood, he would have bet a bit more with an ace or a 5. Okay, this is a few rotations later. I'm on the button and look down at king queen offsuit. The under the gun opens the action for $15. It folds to me, and I think a case can be made for either a fold or a call. Don't think a raise is a good option given the under the gun opened the action, and I think a fold feels a bit nitty here, so I make the call and the small blind calls as well. So we're 3 ways to a flop, which is 10-3 jack with 2 clubs. Small blind checks and the under the gun continues for a bet of $30. Not going anywhere with my open ender and a couple of overs, so I make the call and the small blind folds. Now he could be representing anything from a solid pocket pair to the premium, so need to be mindful of that. The turn is the ace of hearts. Yes sir, the nuts. The under the gun continues again, this time for a bet of $65. Well, given that flush potential is out there on the board, I think I want to raise this one up, charge any draw, so I put out 2 black chips for the raise, and he thinks about this for a solid minute and a half, and lets it go. Could I have extracted more out of him with a call instead of a raise? Don't really know, and who knows what the river could have been. Could have been a club, or could have paired the board, and I could have been in a world of hurt. Now, continuing with the strong hands on the button, here I'm on the button yet again and look down at Ace King offsuit. Now, they say the most profitable position at the table is in this seat, where most folks earn their income. In this hand, it folds to the cutoff, who opens the action for $15, and this is an easy 3-bet, of course, to $45, so that's what I do. Blinds get out of the way, and the cutoff makes the call. So our heads up to a flop, which is Ace Deuce 8 Rainbow. Doesn't get much better on this drive board. Cutoff checks, and I put out a bet of $40, and he makes the call. Right now, only really need to worry about pocket eights. The turn is the king of spades. Heck yeah, top two. Cutoff checks, and yep, gonna size up just a tad, just in case he's on a spade draw. So I put out a bet of $125, and he makes the call relatively quickly here. Is he in fact on a spade draw? The river is the 3 of spades. Gosh dang it. The cutoff now donks and announces a bet of $225. Man alive. I think on this one for a while. Does he have like ace deuce of spades or really any ace x of spades? I just don't think I'm going to be good here, so I'll let this one go. A tough one for sure, but when someone does that, donk leads on the river, they're going to be pretty nutted. After the hand, he told me he had ace 6 of spades. Do I believe him? Yeah, I think I do. Pretty specific. Well, on to the next hand. Hey, look at this. I am not on the button. Here I started the video a bit late, but I'm in the under the gun position and look down at pocket jacks. I opened the action for $15, which is what's been the norm all afternoon and evening. The MP calls the 15 and the low jack raises to $75. Folds back to me and I'm not going anywhere quite yet, so I make the call and the MP throws his cards into the muck. So our heads up to a flop, which is 5 queen 7 with 2 hearts. I check to the aggressor and he checks back. So does he have ace king here or maybe pocket 10s or 9s? The turn is the 6 of diamonds, so that brings in a backdoor diamond draw. I'm not checking this time around and throw out a bet of $85, about 50% of the pot, and the low jack folds pretty quickly here, and I take this one down. That'll work. Okay, I've now been at the Aria for nearly 12 hours and eyes are starting to get a bit fuzzy. Here I'm in the low jack position and look down at another premium ace king offsuit. I open the action for $15 and the hijack takes his time, gathers his chips and raises to $45. Folds back to me and this is a pretty easy call here, so that's what I do. Now if this were suited, I'd consider putting in a nice little 4-bet, but with ace king off, I think this should be a call more often than a 4-bet. So our heads up to a flop, which is 4-8 queen with 2 hearts. I check and the hijack puts out a bet of $50. Now, I don't have any backdoor flush possibilities here, but with my 2 overs and I guess a backdoor straight possibility, I float for a street and make the call. Plan to proceed cautiously though. The turn is the 5 of spades. Should be a pretty big blank for our ranges. I check again and pretty much plan to fold any bet. He now puts out $85 into the middle, and I lay this one down. Pretty easy fold here, so that's what I do, and he shows the camera ace queen offsuit. So thanks for showing, man. Appreciate it. Okay, folks, this is an interesting one. In this hand, I'm in the cutoff position and look down at ace queen offsuit. The hijack opens the action for $15, and yep, you guessed it, a 3-bet is in order, so I raised this one up to $45. However, the button calls the 45, and it folds to the hijack who calls as well. Okie dokie, we're 3 ways to a flop, which is ace deuce jack with 2 spades. All right, top pair, pretty darn good kicker, but a big concern with these guys. The hijack checks, and I put out a continuation bet of $60, about 40% of the pot with my top pair. The button makes the call, and then the hijack raises to $250. Okay, does he have a set of jacks here? Don't think he'd call with deuces, but you never know. Does he have something like king jack of spades? I think on this one for about 30 seconds and lay this one down, and the button doesn't take long and calls the hijack's $250. Yep, glad I got out of this one. The turn is the king of diamonds. The hijack now jams for $325 and the button snap calls. They run it once and the river's the 8 of spades. The button shows ace king offsuit and the hijack does in fact show pocket jacks and takes this one down. Holy cow, I was smoked from the get-go here. Glad I folded when I did. Okay, we are now about 13 hours into the session. I'm in the hijack position in this hand and look down at ace 9 offsuit. No real reason to open this one from this position, but decision-making skills are starting to falter a bit. Here I open the action for $15, which is not recommended, and both the cutoff and button make the call. So our 3 ways to a flop, which is 7-9-7 rainbow. Okay, top pair, best kicker you can get. I'm first to act and put out a bet of $20 with my top pair, and both the cutoff and button players make the call again. A bit worried, does one of them have a 7 or maybe pocket 10s? The turn is the 4 of diamonds, shouldn't really change much, so I decided to put out a bet of $50 this time around, a little less than half the pot. Cutoff makes the call and the button folds. Okay, the cutoff is definitely acting like he's got a 7, but it's still possible he has something like 9-10 or 8-9 maybe. The river's the 5 of diamonds. Now a check is the proper play here for sure, but again, not really seeing straight at the moment, and I throw out a bet of $85. He thinks on this one for a solid 30 seconds or so and puts in a raise to $365, which is a huge raise. More than 4 times my bet. Yeah, I think I'm finally seeing a little bit better right now after that raise, and I let this one go. Pretty clear he's got at least a 7 here at the minimum. Okay, folks, this is the last recorded hand of the session. Can't see straight whatsoever and plan to leave here in a bit. Here I'm in the undergun position and look down at Jack 10 of hearts. I open the action for the standard $15. The cutoff makes the call, the small blind calls, and the big blind calls. All right, pretty decent action here towards the end of the session. So we're 4 ways to a flop, which is 4, 5, 9 with 2 hearts. Okay, 2 overs, a front door flush draw, and a backdoor straight draw. Tons of equity here, but this board is definitely going to hit the blinds range more than mine, so it checks to me and I make the check as well. However, the cutoff puts out a bet of $30. Both the blinds get out of the way, and of course I'm not going anywhere with this equity, so I make the call. The turn is the 7 of hearts. Heck yeah, flush city central. I check to the now post-flop aggressor, and he puts out a bet of $75. Okay, I've got a flush now, but don't want to call and risk a 4th heart on the board in the event he's got a heart larger than my jack. So I raise this one up to $200, and he thinks on this for a solid 30 seconds, and then he re-raises to $415. Oh man, what do you do here? That's just barely a min raise. Does he have something like ace-9 of hearts? I think that's really the only hand that's going to beat me here. I do the unthinkable and jam with my jack high flush for 1130 effective, and he snap calls, and yep, he does in fact show the ace-9 of hearts. River's the 5 of spades and doesn't really matter. I show as I'm done for the evening and pretty much have my heart ripped out of me. 100% played too long this time around, that's for sure. Overall, I was in for 2,000 buckaroos and out for a big goose egg. Well, gave it a shot and I will be back. Thank you everyone for watching. Stay tuned and have a good one.